In the first 4 years of our current term, we added over 171 megawatts of new generating capacity. We operationalized the 46.5 megawatt plant at Garden of Eden that they scrambled and illegally purchased but couldn't deliver. We installed 28.9 megawatts at the Columbia substation. We sourced capacity of 96 megawatts. In fact, it could be more than 96 megawatts of electricity from the 2 power ships. We have also been upgrading the network, upgrading nearly 3,000 transformers and the Canefield substation. We have installed more than 1,300 new transformers, and we have constructed approximately 2,800 kilometers of distribution network. We expanded access to electricity by adding approximately 1,000 new households in 17 previously unserved areas. And we commenced work on solar farms in Berbice, Essequibo, and Linden. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, while the APNU AFC failed to identify a single long-term solution to our historic and well-known electricity problem, Madam Speaker, failed to identify, much less initiate, a single solution to our well-known energy problem. The People's Progressive Party Civic, as soon as we came into government, we commenced work on our transformational flagship 300 megawatt gas to energy project. Today, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, after 4 years in office, Madam Speaker, they had nothing to show for their investments in the energy sector. Madam Speaker, today, our transformational gas to energy project is well advanced and under construction. And I had the privilege of joining the Honorable Prime Minister, Madam Speaker, and the Honorable Vikram Bharat to visit that project, to see the work very much on the way. Madam Speaker, that project entails 5 components: the gas-to-shore pipeline, of course, the combined cycle power plant, the NGL plant, transmission lines, and the new control center. All of the gas-to-energy phase 1 components are scheduled to be completed in 2025, bringing online the simple cycle for this project, significantly increasing availability and improving the affordability and reliability of energy. Madam Speaker, because the People's Progressive Party is a government with vision, we are already looking ahead. We have already initiated gas to energy phase 2, building on the successes of gas to energy phase 1. And GTE phase 2 will see an additional 250 megawatts of combined cycle power plant constructed and electricity supplied to GPL, very likely under a power purchase agreement. That is one of the models that we have proposed. We launched an RFP in 2024, last year, and we anticipate concluding that arrangement in 2025 with completion to follow 2 years thereafter. Madam Speaker, we're also investing in our T&D network to ensure the GPL's T&D system can offtake the power that will be produced by the GTE project. Key elements include construction of 155 kilometers of double circuit transmission lines, 214 kilometers of 69 kV lines, and 343 kilometers of distribution lines. And we can see these lines under construction currently. Additionally, of course, we are upgrading several 69 kV substations. Madam Speaker, with regard to improving electricity in the hinterland, because of course, the GTE, once it comes online, will meet certainly in the immediate and near term the requirements of coastal communities. But Madam Speaker, because we are a government concerned about all of the Guyanese people, irrespective of where they live, with regard to improving access to electricity in the hinterland, within the last 4 years, we have installed 35 solar mini-grids and over 36 LED lights. We've distributed over 30,000 solar panels. We've commissioned a 1.5 megawatt solar farm at Bartika, a 1 megawatt solar farm at Letem, a 0.5 megawatt solar farm at Madhya. In 2024, we made progress to expand our hydro capability with a 1.5 megawatt plant at Kumu, a 0.7 megawatt plant at Maka and 150 kilowatts at Kato. The Maka plant is operational, and regrettably I missed an opportunity to join the Honorable Prime Minister at the commissioning of that plant. That plant is now in operation and supplying electricity. And Madam Speaker, it is now serving 7,500 residents of that area. Madam Speaker, in 2025, we will continue work on our renewable initiatives, operationalizing Kato and Kumu. We will complete solar farms in Borbi, Sesikibro, and Linden, distribution networks in Aichuni, Komaka, and Kaichuni. We will commence construction of the 15 megawatt solar farm in Linden. We will upgrade distribution networks in Mabaruma, Matthews Ridge, and Port Kaichuma. We will develop a 450 kilowatt peak wind farm at Legwan. We will distribute an additional 7,230 solar panels in hinterland communities for the benefit of our Amerindian brothers and sisters. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, rather, the delivery of these projects will substantially improve reliability and reduce the cost of electricity. To this end, in 2024, reflecting the substantial expenditure made, particularly in the gas-to-energy project, we spent $136.1 billion. In 2025, Madam Speaker, we are budgeting another $88 billion to continue this work. Transport infrastructure.
Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, the period from 2025 was also characterized, like with every other sector, by no new major investments in our country's transport infrastructure. Instead, the then government contented itself with completing projects that they had already, they contented themselves with completing projects, or rather I should say, with trying to complete, with advancing and trying to complete projects that they inherited from us when we demitted office, projects that were already initiated, like the West Coast Road, the East Bank Road, the East Coast Road, etc. All of those projects were initiated under the People's Progressive Party pre-2015 government. They initiated no other significant transport infrastructure investment, not one. This lack of vision resulted in severe traffic congestion on our highways, dilapidated community roads as a result of neglect, reversing the progress that we had made before, and atrocious hinterland and riverine road access roads, atrocious hinterland roads hindering access to hinterland and riverine communities. Madam Speaker, as soon as we assumed office, we sought to correct this.
That's right. Listen.
We have Madam Speaker, let me speak, Madam Speaker, of all that we have constructed.
Listen. You're getting that soon, you will like it.
Madam Speaker, I am delighted that those on the opposite side are displaying for the world at large to see their agitation at the disclosure of their abject incompetence and lack of vision. Since returning to office in August 2020, we constructed the new Heroes Highway, the Mocha to Diamond Interlink Road, the Skunard to Merzorgan 4-lane road, an alternate bypass road through Diamond and Grove. We completed the Sheriff to Mandela Road. We have started East Coast Road. Finished conversation free. Just to mention a few, and I'm not going to list all, otherwise we'll be here a little bit later. It is my plan to be brief today. Madam Speaker, over 4,000 dilapidated community roads and muddy dams have been converted into durable concrete or asphalt surfaces. Madam Speaker, in 2024, $160.6 billion was expended to improve road connectivity across the country. Madam Speaker, in 2025, turning to 2025, I wish, Madam Speaker, to highlight a few transformative projects and important works that we will continue and/or initiate. Madam Speaker, the new Quarantine River Bridge.
Yes, sir.
Discussions are ongoing for a partnership with the government of Suriname, which will see the construction of a 1,100 meters bridge across the Quarantine River, connecting Guyana and Suriname. An indicative sum of $5 billion is allocated to commence works once discussions with our Surinamese counterparts are concluded favorably. Palmyra to Molson Creek, another $15.5 billion is budgeted. The new Berbice River Bridge, anticipated to commence construction. The pre-qualification process was completed in 2024, and procurement will be completed early in 2025. Works will commence on a new Berbice River Bridge, for which $5 billion is budgeted. The railway embankment project from Sherry Street to Orange Nassau, continuing to the Mahaica River Bridge, $17.5 billion is budgeted to complete this works. The new Demerara River Bridge, $20.2 billion is budgeted to complete that bridge, and that bridge will be opened before the end of 2024. The Parika to Goshen Road, the Good Success to Timeri Road, the Ogle to Eccles Highway, the Diamond to Busby Dam, Linden to Soosdijk Highway, the Linden to Soosdijk Highway, the Linden to Soosdijk Highway. Madam Speaker, for which a sum of $9 billion is budgeted in 2025. The Wismar Bridge, which they did nothing at all on. That bridge today, Madam Speaker, is under construction. His Excellency, the President, and some of my colleagues in the Cabinet visited the construction site. This Wismar Bridge is being built before our very eyes. In 2025, $2.5 billion is budgeted to advance that work. The Linden to Mabura Road, a reality under construction right now, and 45 concrete bridges along the route, $12.9 billion budgeted, and that road is under construction. All of these projects are there for all to see. Madam Speaker, in 2024, $74 billion was expended on community roads. In 2025, a further $53.2 billion will be spent on community roads. Madam Speaker, on hinterland roads, a sum of $6.4 billion was spent in 2024. Reflecting the priority we place on hinterland roads, a sum of $9 billion will be spent in 2025. Madam Speaker, a total A total of $209.3 billion has been allocated in 2025 to further develop our roads and bridges infrastructure. Madam Speaker, in air transport, we inherited a botched, and I struggled with an appropriate word. You know, botch is not a word that I would ordinarily use. It's not a word that I am able to pronounce very smoothly. It wasn't my first choice, but I struggled. I didn't want to be unparliamentary. I struggled with a suitable parliamentary word. A botched Chedi Jagan International Airport project was inherited. We came back and found a project that was in tatters. A reduced scope of work, a reduced scope, Madam Speaker, a reduced scope and a bigger price. Nothing to show for it. We had to salvage that project.
Yes, we did.
We had to re-engage with the company, renegotiate, and try to bring that project to some semblance of decency. At the domestic infrastructure level, Madam Speaker, we completed rehabilitation of rehab of several hinterland airstrips: Baramita, Parima, Port Kaituma, Philippi, Letem. In 2024, $2 billion was expended to rehabilitate airstrips in several areas, including at Ettringbang, advanced works at Ikiriku Bottom, Kite Shore, Kaikan, Karasparo, and others. Madam Speaker, in 2025, a sum of $2.5 billion has been budgeted to complete and rehabilitate hinterland airstrips, including at Apoteri, Aishaltan, Chinapao, Jawala, and Sand Creek.
Yes, sir.
Madam Speaker, as already stated when I discussed developments in the tourism sector, we have seen exponential increase in international traffic at our international airports, both Chedi Jagan and the Ogle Airport. Madam Speaker, to accommodate this growth in demand, in fact, the demand, the additional flights and airlines that are coming in, the volume of passengers have all resulted in the Chedi Jagan International Airport already being outgrown, its capacity being outgrown. Madam Speaker, this year, we will be investing in the development of a new world-class terminal, increasing the capacity and efficiency of the airport. The new 150,000 square foot terminal building will showcase our country's natural beauty and will allow for additional duty-free zones, retail opportunities, rental offices, and lounges. The airport will then be able to dedicate different buildings for arrivals and departures and have a functioning in-transit lounge reflecting its transition to a truly modern international airport.
That's what we're doing.
Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to inform you, and through you, inform the world, that a sum of $7 billion has been budgeted to commence these works. River transport. Recognizing the need for an efficient river transport system, we have made significant investments, including the commissioning of the Malisha, which plies the Parika to Northwest route. We have procured a tug, hydrographic survey vessels, pilot boats, etc. In 2024, we spent $9.3 billion, including on completing rehabilitation and dry docking of some of our vessels and rehabilitation of some of our stellings, and the construction and installation of navigational aids. In 2025, we have budgeted $9.9 billion to improve our river transport service.
Go ahead, Anna. That's what we do.
This includes work to commence. You will be delighted to know, Madam Speaker, this includes work to commence on a new Parika ferry stelling and waterfront development project. This will transform the Perdica-Stelling into a major regional hub for transportation and socio-economic activity and enhance operational efficiency, reflecting the growing emergence of Region 3 and indeed Region 2 and other major centers like Bartica as major centers of economic activity. A new Bartica ferry stelling and waterfront development project. We will support the dredging of the Demerara River to ensure safe passage of larger vessels. We will remove wrecks and obstructions from the mouths of our rivers. We will operationalize wooden cargo boats, of which I spoke last year. We will complete work on the Macauria, Malali, Kanawan, Sabanto, and also complete work on our goods wharves. Madam Speaker, for those and other initiatives, a sum of $9.9 billion is budgeted, as I said earlier. Sea and river defenses. When 2 days after we assumed office, our government was confronted with the task of addressing the catastrophic damage caused by a breach in Maikodi. This reflected yet again the incompetence of the APNU, AFC, and their abject neglect. It appears, Madam Speaker, it appears that not a single sector was spared the consequences of their neglect. Not a single sector. There we are coming into office, and 2 days later, a major sea defense breach. Madam Speaker, we have made significant strides. Madam Speaker, imagine in a mere 5 years, destroying all that we had built before, and reversing all of the progress that we had made. In a mere 5 years, destroying the progress that we had made in this country prior to 2015. In 2024, $8.2 billion was expended to upgrade and maintain our coastal resilience. In 2025, the sum of $8.2 billion is budgeted towards further strengthening the endurance of our sea defense infrastructure. This will see work in places such as Belladrum, Bengal, Denamstel, on the Niming, etc. Investing in our people, the health sector. I will not repeat, Madam Speaker, what I said earlier regarding the state of the health sector buckling under the pressures of COVID-19. We have since launched a complete revolution in the health sector, building out in the shortest imaginable time a truly modern sector, capable of delivering world-class treatment and care to our citizens. We want to expand rapidly access, including in the hinterland, through the deployment of telemedicine capabilities, even in our remotest communities. Ramp up capabilities, including certain specialized capabilities. Deploy more modern technology, all with the objective of improving the coverage and quality of care of our public healthcare system. The following, Madam Speaker, are major highlights, and there are just a few that I will mention. Madam Speaker, we anticipate being able in 2025 to complete and commission the Pediatric and Maternity Hospital in Ogle, and 6 regional hospitals at Lima, Dikendran, Diamond, and more, Bat, and number 75 Village. Yes, Madam Speaker, these regional hospitals are under construction, are at an advanced stage of construction. Every week we see the Honorable Minister Frank Anthony visiting one of these locations with his hard hat. Very soon he will take off his hard hat because he will be visiting completed hospitals, and instead he will be visiting these locations. The hard hat will be replaced with a pair of scissors to cut a ribbon and to commission these hospitals. Expected to be commissioned very soon. We will advance works at 4 regional hospitals at Moruca, West Demerara, New Amsterdam, and Cato. We will upgrade Letham Regional Hospital. For those works, Madam Speaker, and through you, we have budgeted a sum of $28.1 billion. Complete training annexes in Saudi and in New Amsterdam to ramp up our training capabilities and commence the construction of 2 dormitories for these complexes, for which a sum of $852 million is budgeted. Design and construct a medicines regulatory laboratory and office complex, a national neurological rehabilitation center, and a center of excellence for cancer treatment, for which a sum of $2.9 billion is budgeted. Update, upgrade, and retrofit health facilities and living quarters throughout the country, for which a sum of $6.5 billion is budgeted. We're also deploying technology, including technology that we never had before, allowing us to have capabilities like laparoscopic capabilities, permitting non-invasive surgeries, which are already happening at the GPHC. We will continue to add to the fleet of our equipment, including with digital imaging systems that allow remote scanning and transmission of digital images, and therefore remote diagnosis. We've introduced telemedicine centers, and we will introduce telemedicine centers in all of at sites across regions 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. In last year, $3.1 billion was spent on medical equipment. We will spend $4.3 billion on medical equipment and $4.5 billion. Madam Speaker, on drugs and medical supplies. In 2024, we spent $24.2 billion. In 2025, we will spend $28 billion. Turning to human resource capacity, we have ramped up training, including, of course, like I said, we are ramping up with the building of new training facilities, but we've also used online platforms like Coursera to deliver online training. We've graduated thousands of medical professionals, including nurses and nursing assistants, and we will continue to use those platforms to train nurses for our public health care system. In chronic diseases, we've ramped up screening. We have screened over 90,000 persons, surpassing our target of 70,000 persons, and we anticipate screening 100,000 persons in 2025 for chronic diseases. In mental health, we have updated the legal framework with new legislation. We've updated the legal framework. We have trained 622 professionals. We have expanded an 18-bed mental health ward at the GPHC. And the current New Amsterdam will be converted to the National Mental Health Facility with the closure of the old National Psychiatric Hospital, because as this is known. With main communicable diseases, Madam Speaker, like malaria, or Mr. Speaker, my apologies, sir, once again, I was distracted by those on the right and didn't realize that you had resumed your seat. Mr. Speaker, sir, in the area of malaria, HIV, tuberculosis, leprosy, ramping up our testing, etc. Maternal, child, and adolescent health. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, for all of the initiatives, for these and other initiatives, I've only provided a small sample. In 2025, a total of 145.1, sorry, let me say that again. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, a total of $143.2 billion is budgeted for the health sector. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, in education, here again, we came into office and found infrastructure that had been neglected, no significant expansion to the infrastructure, no major addition to the stock of schools, the fleet of equipment, the training, absolutely nothing, even in the education. Mr. Speaker, we came into office in COVID-19. Children were at home. and absolutely no preparations had been made to deliver any content whatsoever. Lest we forget, COVID-19 came. Children were at home. Teachers were at home. Not a single sheet of paper, much less a workbook. Not a single tablet, much less a device of greater sophistication. Mr. Speaker, we came into COVID-19 and found the teachers and students at home with nothing to do. And the AP and UAFC had made absolutely no preparations. They had made no attempt. To deliver a single minute of content to children, a single sheet of paper. The teachers and the children and the parents were left at home with nothing whatsoever in 2020. And the People's Progressive Party came into government under the leadership of President Ali, with the sector under the leadership of Minister Manik Chan, and had to salvage and repair that tragic situation where children and parents were at home and teachers were at home with nothing to do, nothing to engage them. Absolutely nothing at home to do. Mr. Speaker, we have set about upgrading and expanding our school infrastructure, and I could be here all evening listing. I have a long list. The printed version of my speech, which I've tabled in keeping with the required formalities, lists them. I have a long list of the initiatives that we've implemented. We have completed over 30 nursery schools. We've reconstructed 7. We've extended 4. Construction is going on at 25. We've completed over 15 primary schools. We have completed construction at secondary schools. Construction is going on right now at more than 20 secondary schools, more than 11 primary schools, and more than 25 nursery schools. Construction is going on right now. We have already created another 8,000 additional places for our children. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, a sum of $36.2 billion is allocated to continue works on school buildings. These schools, when completed, will constitute a major addition to the capacity of our school system by adding 20,000 additional places countrywide. We restored the Because We Care cash grant, which was callously taken away. I would like them to dispute that the Because We Care cash grant, which was callously taken away. In 2021, we restored it. This grant has benefited since we reintroduced it. Mr. Speaker, from the period from 2021 to 2024, the Because We Care cash grant has put in the hands of parents of children going to school a total of $27 billion. As you know, we not only reintroduced it, but we've been increasing it. It has put in their hands. The Because We Care cash grant, together with the uniform grant, has put in the hands of parents $27 billion. We have increased this grant from $15,000 per month to $40,000 over the last 4 years. This year, Mr. Speaker, 203,000 children will benefit. We launched the National Breakfast Program and School Feeding Program, and we're ramping it up. And like I said, we're expanding the National School Feeding Program. Mr. Speaker, in 2025, $5.5 billion is financed to advance and accelerate the National School Feeding Program. Textbooks. Yes, we returned to office and we found a tragic deficit of textbooks. We have procured, since we returned to office, more than $8 billion worth of textbooks, as a result of which every child in primary and secondary has access to core textbooks. And my colleague Minister Manik Chan will no doubt speak more of this. We have already expended, since we returned to office, $8 billion on textbooks. And we've allocated almost $2 billion in 2025 to buy more textbooks, workbooks, and reading books, particularly for the nursery level, and to replenish at the primary and secondary levels. We introduced a school grant system to enable our school administrators to procure basic requirements. In 2024, 2.9 billion was provided. In 2025, we have provided an amount of $3 billion to continue and expand the school grant system. Curriculum development and targeted interventions. We're implementing targeted interventions on literacy and on mathematics, including a national literacy plan, expanded internet connectivity and ICT to roll out connectivity to our schools, implementation of the EMIS, improving the number of trained teachers. Mr. Speaker, when we returned to office, 32% of our teachers were untrained or trained? Were trained. 32% of our teachers were trained. Mr. Speaker, we have said that we will train every single teacher in the public education system. Every single teacher. We're already at 86%, if I'm not mistaken, and we will get to 100% of our teachers will either be trained or in training. Who has not completed training will be in training, 100% of our teachers. Tertiary education. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with our manifesto commitments to make university education more accessible, we have begun phase 1 of the debt write-off program. We have already written off $1.8 billion of loans owed by 2,700 persons, and we are appealing to eligible persons to come in and fill out their applications so that we can process their loan write-off. We have also announced, Mr. Speaker, that the University of Guyana will be tuition-free from January 2025. This will benefit in excess of 11,000 current students and all new students. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, we provided $5.2 billion to the University of Guyana, reflecting the abolition of tuition fees in 2025. Sums totaling $13.1 billion are allocated to finance UG's operations. The Guyana Online Academy of Learning, GOAL, we've offered more than 29,000, almost 30,000 scholarships for persons to pursue higher education through GOAL. In 2025, we've allocated another $4.4 billion for GOAL. Similarly, the Guyana National Coursera Partnership, the One Guyana Digital Program, just to mention a few. On technical and vocational training, and here again, Mr. Speaker, I will only mention a few examples. We completed and commissioned phase 1 of the Guyana Technical Training College at Port Morant and graduated the first batch of 24 persons. We have trained over 12,000 persons at the Board of Industrial Training. In 2025, $677 million is allocated to benefit another 2,400 persons who will be trained on the bit. For TVET initiatives on the whole, Mr. Speaker, we have allocated $2.6 billion in 2025. To fund all of these initiatives in the education sector, a total of $175 billion is allocated to the sector. This will advance us rapidly, even more rapidly, to realizing our vision of free world-class education right here in Guyana. Housing. Here again, Mr. Speaker, it's a tragic tale. We demitted office with a vibrant housing program, being able to lay claim to housing areas like Eccles, Diamond, Parfait Harmony, all of which previously were retired fields and were made into thriving residential communities under the pre-2015 People's Progressive Party, thriving and vibrant housing area. Thriving. no less. A thriving for the enjoyment and appreciation. The distinguished Attorney General is a man with very good taste. And I know he appreciates things that thrive, that which is thriving. And I know he has a great admiration for how our housing program was thriving. No, I rather suspect he pronounces that very differently. Mr. Speaker, a thriving housing sector. And then, Mr. Speaker, we demitted office. And the APNU completely altered course. Completely altered course. Calamity again. They discontinued the housing program. Instead, introduced some shared housing unit style condominium buildings. Was it duplex they called them? Duplex. Which were blatantly rejected. The Guyanese people rejected, didn't want these units. What was worse, having constructed a few of these units, they then discovered that they didn't have the legal framework. They then discovered that they didn't have the legal framework to pass title. That was the competence, or rather, sir, yet again, the embarrassing and abject incompetence of those who immediately preceded us in office. Yet another failed and calamitous program and failed and calamitous sector. We came back into office. We came back into office and we set about immediately revitalizing the housing program. We have developed 85 new and existing housing areas, including Amila's Ward, Baltiok, Belwest, Charity, and I can list I give you a long list. We have allocated over 40,000 house lots across all income categories. We have constructed over 2,000 houses. We have implemented targeted programs. We have removed VAT. We have removed the value-added tax on locally produced building and construction materials. We have launched a single window system. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, we have implemented initiatives to reduce the cost of financing for home ownership. We increased the ceiling for the low-income mortgage from 8 million to 20 million. We have increased the ceiling for housing loans at the NBS from 12 million to 20 million. We have restored the ceiling. If you want, Mr. Speaker, to see how the AP and UAFC assaulted housing, we left government with the ceiling on the mortgage interest relief program. We left government with that ceiling on 30 million. At 30 million, they came in. They're good. As we say in Guyana. They're good at 30 million. They come in and see it good at 30 million, and they slash it to 15 million, rendering a long list of people ineligible and causing a long list of people to lose their benefits. And it as they say in some place, as I would say when I'm in other venues, it's been there good. They see it good, and they come and broke it up and cut the ceiling by half. We came back into office, and in our first emergency budget, with Minister Edgell read on behalf of this People's Progressive Party government, we returned it immediately to $30 million. Immediately, in our first budget. Righting, Mr. Speaker, that wrong. Mr. Speaker, these and other initiatives will help to bring home ownership within the reach of every single Guyanese family. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, we expended $78.5 billion for the development of new and existing housing areas. We've allocated $112.6 billion in 2025 to continue that work. Mr. Speaker, this is also replicated in water, where we have sunk new wells in several places, Bamia, Fellowship, Virgin Nugent, Wales, etc., benefiting over 22,000 persons. Work is ongoing on wells at Sophia, Timeri, and several other locations. Access to water in the hinterland has moved from 46% in 2020 to 91% in 2024 with the drilling of 130 wells in the hinterland. Mr. Speaker, new water supply systems are slated for several hinterland communities for which we've budgeted $2.2 billion. We're also installing water treatment plants. We are advancing construction of 13 water treatment plants. And for those initiatives that are targeting water quality, a sum of $10 billion is budgeted. Mr. Speaker, the water sector spent $22.7 billion in 2024. A total of $23.1 billion is budgeted for 2025. Sanitation and solid waste management. Mr. Speaker, community sanitation and solid waste management is one of the most pressing bugbears affecting our citizens. We know this. And it's a long-standing problem. There are multiple contributory factors, including inadequate infrastructure such as landfill sites, unregulated sites, inefficient operation of existing sites, weak or non-existent garbage collection by the LDOs, the local democratic organs, as well as, of course, attitudinal and behavioral factors. We have committed, and we will be launching this year, a major assault on the solid waste problem that we have in this country. In 2025, some of the initiatives that we plan include upgrading the Hags-Bosch sanitary landfill site, which includes the completion of cell 3 and a hazardous waste cell and recycling center. Mr. Speaker, we will develop new sanitary landfill sites in regions 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. And we will do continuous upgrades to regional landfill sites in Enterprise, Mabaluma, Maikoni, Port Kaituma, Santa Rosa, St. Ignatius, and Timeri. We will complete the leachate treatment facilities in Bartica and Zorg. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, we will launch a major procurement and distribution of waste management equipment, including compactors, compactor machines, and compactor trucks, and bins to be strategically located throughout our communities across the length and breadth of our country, all with the aim of launching a major national solid waste management initiative. Mr. Speaker, to advance these initiatives, a substantial sum of $13.2 billion is allocated. Culture and the arts. Mr. Speaker, in this period of rapid transformation, it is more important than ever before that we preserve our identity as a country and as a people. It is no accident that our president has embraced the One Guyana theme as the theme for his presidency. We continue to invest in our historical structures, monuments, forts, cultural landmarks, on music and the performing arts. We've done upgrades to the National Cultural Center. We are building recording studios. In fact, we have built one in Port Morant, which will be commissioned, which will be completed shortly. We will be building one in region 2, 3, and 10. We are working with groups of young artists to ensure that Guyanese artists are given an opportunity to produce and showcase their work. Work has begun on the preparation of a design for a brand new state-of-the-art museum and art gallery, for which $1 billion is allocated in 2025. We are going to be building to showcase our beautiful, diverse culture, a cultural market at Palmyra, which will be a major educational and cultural hub to showcase our diversity. To finance that project, a sum of $800 million is allocated. Mr. Speaker, we spent $2.6 billion on culture last year. We've budgeted $3.6 billion for cultural initiative this year. Sports facilities. Brand new major international stadium at Palmyra slated for completion in 2025. A new international stadium at Crane, which will commence construction. Multi-purpose sports facilities at Anna Regina, Bayrock, Mackenzie, New Amsterdam. Multi-purpose sports halls in Leonora, Letta, Mabaruma, Madhya, Mongrippa Hill. Commencement of works on a cricket academy in Hope. Upgrade of community grounds across the length and breadth of the country. Over 450 grounds. Over 450 grounds being upgraded. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, sorry. Mr. Speaker, if I look left, Mr. Speaker, in 2004, in 2005 rather, we have allocated $2 billion for community grounds, including $1 billion for the procurement and installation of lights, so that these grounds can be used after the sun has set, because in many of these communities, there's tremendous demand for night cricket, night football, and night sport. Mr. Speaker, in track and field, in 2024, a team of specialized coaches from the United States was recruited to assess 200 of our top young track and field athletes with the aim of identifying talent from within our existing pool. 23 athletes were identified for specialized training, and we plan in 2025 to develop an elite training program for our athletes and coaches to improve the prospects for them and to create a world-class team to participate in the Olympics for 2028. Mr. Speaker, we're working with several other sporting disciplines, administrators in basketball, in football, in table tennis, in chess, working with administrators in very many of these sports. In basketball, for example, we'll be building tarmacs, and we'll be working with coaches to roll out broad-based involvement in the sport at the community level, at the school level, so that young people are playing every day, and they become accustomed to playing with the basketball every day. And then working, of course, with the administrators to organize formal coaching and tournaments, etc., so that our young people can really get to international quality proficiency. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, we spent $5 billion on sporting initiatives. In 2025, we'll be spending $8 billion on sporting initiatives. In youth, Mr. Speaker, here again, I've already spoken about some of the things that we're doing in technical and vocational training. I've already spoken about the things that we're doing for training young people through the education system. But there are a number of specialized targeted youth initiatives, the Youth Entrepreneurship and Skills Training Program, restarting the President's Youth Arm, Republic of Ghana, PYARG as it's abbreviated, establishing 66 hubs, hosting science fairs, etc. For all of these special initiatives targeting youth, $1.2 billion is budgeted. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, for the care of our children, we've already spoken about a number of initiatives, including through the education system. But there are a number of special initiatives targeting our children, including, first of all, at the policy level. In the first instance, at the international treaty and legal framework level, we've enacted the update of the Adoption of Children Amendment Act, the Family Violence Act, both to improve the framework for protection of children and protection for members of the family, and in the case of the update of the Adoption of Children Act, to address the question of intercountry adoptions. We've completed an early childhood development policy. We've completed construction of early childhood development centers, a number of them across the country. We've provided over 40,000 eye tests and more than 36,000 spectacle vouchers for minors. We've trained over 3,800 persons to provide childhood daycare center, and the list goes on. A sum of $1.1 billion expended in 2024. A sum of $1.3 billion is budgeted for 2025. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, senior citizens are also, of course, beneficiaries of all of the special health programs to which I've lived. We would like our senior citizens to be able to live well into their golden years. We want to make sure that every senior citizen enjoys those years in dignity and comfort, as we said before. We've continued to pay the old age pension and increased it. We've introduced a number of innovations, including using electronic payments and paying through alternative means. We've restored the subsidy for water and electricity enjoyed by pensioners. And all of those things are budgeted to be continued in 2025 rather. We've improved service delivery to pensioners by early delivery of pension books, including the option to cash pension books through commercial banks, like I said, and direct payment systems. And in many cases, direct delivery to communities and delivery through other public places, like places of worship. That is ongoing and will continue to be ramped up in 2025. In 2025 too, we've been doing work. We've started work on the design of a new elderly care facility, and we're budgeting for that work to commence, construction to commence in 2025. Overall, the sum of $42.8 billion is budgeted for continuous support to our senior citizens. Similarly, women and gender, providing entrepreneurship and skill, again, very ably led by my colleague Minister Vinay Prasad, who's been training thousands of women through the various programs, including the Women Innovation and Investment Network, the WIN program. Over 23,000 women have been trained. The BIT also, of course, is training persons. We trained in 2024 alone 5,900 women, and in 2025 we are catering to train another 11,200 women under these programs. Women in our society, of course, benefit from several other programs. They benefit from the Gold Scholarship Program. Over 21,000 women have gotten Gold Scholarship programs. Gold Scholarship, 72% of the awardees are women. We've allocated over 16,500 house lots to women, which represents about 46% of the house lots awarded. We've trained thousands of persons in areas such as social inclusion, gender mainstreaming, etc. Persons living with disabilities. As you know, we have given a number of special interventions in relation to persons living with disabilities, including multiple cash grants that total over the years $1.9 billion. Most recently, we announced the payment of a special one-off cash grant of $35,000 for persons living with permanent disabilities who are on the ministry's register. We anticipate that that will put in the hands of these persons $875 million. We will continue to provide monthly public assistance next year. We'll continue to provide support for interest-free loans. We'll continue to provide assistance with expanding businesses, etc., and also with the provision of assistive aids and provision of skills training. Additionally, we've retrofitted a new facility for persons living with disabilities, so training and rehabilitation. 38 classrooms have been retrofitted as well. And the special education needs and disabilities program has been launched at the Cyril Potter College of Education, which has seen 51 teachers graduating in 2024 and another 49 expected to graduate in 2025 in special education, specifically in special education. Additionally, 1,700 teachers were trained between 2020 and 2024 to use screening tools to detect early learning challenges. We will be constructing our country's first dedicated school for the deaf at Cummings Lodge as well. Victims of domestic violence. Here again, we have brought in the law, the Family Violence Act. We have complemented the policy and legislative framework with sensitization in the various regions, including rollout of free legal aid services. We've partnered and supported the provision of shelter and counseling services. We have brought into the law the Combating of Trafficking in Persons Act, which criminalizes sex and labor trafficking and increases penalties, etc. Importantly, Mr. Speaker, in 2024, the list is too long to mention. Mr. Speaker, in 2024, we marked the 8th consecutive year in which Guyana maintained its Tier 1 status in the U.S. Department of State Trafficking in Persons ranking as a result of the excellent work that we're doing in that area. Mr. Speaker, in total, we spent on the social services last year $46.9 billion. In 2025, a sum of $58.5 billion is budgeted. Amerindian and Hinterland development. Here again, another population group, like every other, who suffered neglect and mismanagement by the AP and UFC. Tragic suffering and neglect. The Amerindian land titling was abandoned. The Amerindian land titling program was abandoned. The CSO program was abandoned and 2,000 young people were fired. The Amerindian ICT, the Hinterland ICT program was languishing with the ICT equipment, languishing in a warehouse. When we came back, Mr. Speaker, we moved immediately to resuscitate the land titling program. An additional 15 villages have been demarcated. We reinstated the CSO program. Over 2,700 persons are once again recruited. We supported the National Two Shelves Council with the building of the NTC Secretariat. We resuscitated and grew the Hinterland Scholarships program. We invested, importantly, not including the LCDS revenues, we invested over $19.9 billion through our Amerindian Development Fund and presidential grants. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we also devoted an earmarked amount of financing under the LCDS. Mr. Speaker, not including carbon credit transfers, a total of $7.2 billion is allocated in 2025 to enhance the well-being of our institution. Mr. Speaker, not including carbon credit transfers, a total of $7.2 billion is allocated in 2025 to further enhance the well-being of our indigenous brothers and sisters. Improved governance and institutional reforms. We continue to practice, espouse, and be flag bearers for good governance on behalf of all of the Guyanese people. On the basis of inclusion, participation, transparency, and accountability. A core concept of transparency and accountability and oversight is the effective functioning of our constitutional bodies. Since 2020, we've reconstituted key commissions and provided substantial funding to support their mandates and operations, including GCOM, Ethnic Relations Commissions, the Rights Commissions, the Procurement Commission, the Service Commissions, the Judiciary, the Audit Office, etc. In 2025, sums of $18.9 billion are budgeted to further enhance their capacity for greater accountability. The Integrity Commission continues to receive strong support to enforce the Integrity Commission, the Act rather. Work has commenced on drafting revisions to the Act to address penalties for non-compliance and to improve reporting mechanisms. The sum of $112.5 billion is budgeted specifically for the Integrity Commission in 2025. We established a Constitutional Reform Commission. That commission has started its work, and to finance the continuation of its work in 2025, a sum of $218.9 billion. We have reviewed the 8th cycle of the Inter-American Convention Against Corruption. Mr. Speaker, we intend in 2025 to build on all of these initiatives, to continue to demonstrate our ongoing commitment to fostering transparency, accountability, and good governance for all of the Guyanese people. Justice sector strengthening. Mr. Speaker, the timely provision of justice relies on a fully functioning and adequately resourced judicial system. We've invested in infrastructure, technology, and capacity building to improve access to justice. In addition to the courts constructed during 2021 to 2023, in 2024, we extended the Court of Appeal and construction at Port Kaituma and Maikoni. Of course, we had previously worked on courts in Bartica, Kokwani, Vigilance, Wales, Berbice, and the Georgetown High Courts. Indeed, the Madhya Magistrates Court, I think, and Maikoni, if I'm not mistaken, were commissioned very recently, mere days ago. I think Minister Jill commissioned one of those. And the Attorney General, of course, is collaborating closely with the judiciary in ensuring that all of this remarkable expansion is executed in the infrastructure used by our court system. Works are also expected to commence at Parfait, Harmony, and Providence. For those projects, a sum of $1.9 billion is budgeted. Digital transformation of the judicial system. We've equipped courtrooms with digital court recording systems. We've equipped an e-litigation system. We're piloting a court case management system, all of which will improve and they constitute important digital solutions in government, a matter that I will come back to later. In terms of the HR capacity, as is well known, we've just seen the appointment of 10 new puisne judges and 9 new magistrates, dramatically increasing the human resources capacity of the judiciary. We now have 20 judges and 24 magistrates, enabling more timely hearing and disposal of matters. I was pausing there for you, Attorney General. We've also introduced a prosecutorial program that has graduated 125 candidates, which have given us 35 special prosecutors already. Restorative justice, we have passed the Restorative Justice Act, and we're implementing the Restorative Justice System. We've already established a Restorative Justice Center in Region 4, and we anticipate in 2025, Restorative Justice offices will become operational in all 10 of our regions. We've also advanced significantly on 2 very important exercises, the law revision exercise and the preparation and publication of our law reports. We've had teams of advisors working on this work, and the new consolidated version of the law reports and the consolidation of the law reports and the new consolidated version of the laws of Guyana and the compilation of the law reports will be concluded this year and printed and published in 2025. Mr. Speaker, turning to labor market considerations, it's well known that as a small country with a rapidly growing economy and a small population, labor market considerations continue to be important and preeminent in our minds. We continue to focus on ways in which we can improve efficiency in the labor market, and in particular, we continue to emphasize skills training as a means of ensuring that all persons who are looking for work are able to find work. On the local government system, we had pledged in our manifesto to uphold and strengthen the institutional capacity of our LDOs. We have had, as you know, local government elections. We've been investing heavily in local government infrastructure, in particular markets. We built markets in Charity, East Ragveld, Hydroni, Leonora, Monrepo, Parica. They are brand new markets emerging. We will continue to build markets, continue to construct markets at Comaka, Sodi, Monrepo, another phase 3 of Monrepo, and other locations. We have budgeted phase 3, because it's growing so rapidly. To advance these initiatives, $2.7 billion is budgeted for markets. We continue to provide financial support through subventions to the NDCs and the municipalities. We have budgeted $2.8 billion to provide support to the NDCs and municipalities. We'll ramp up the Community Enhancement Workers Program and the National Pathway Workers Program, employing nearly 18,000 persons, of which 12,000 are women. For this, $12.7 billion is budgeted.
Go ahead,
We will also focus particularly on service delivery in the LDOs by ensuring early in 2025 the establishment of a citizens' help desk in every single NDC in our country, providing assistance to the vulnerable and the elderly in the delivery of routine government service. Financial sector reform, our aim is to continue to maintain financial sector stability, while, of course, the sector continues to contribute to growth. We continue to ensure that our financial sector is well regulated. The Bank of Guyana's monitoring of macroprudential and systemic risk factors, supervision of credit unions, and stress testing is essential going forward. We have also made a lot of progress in implementing international guidelines that govern financial sector supervision and building capacity in the central bank to manage risks. We've also made remarkable progress in combating financial crimes and money laundering, enacting several amendments to the legal framework, including to the AML-CFT Act, and establishing other institutional structures like the Compliance Commission by legislation, the hire purchase, the act that regulates the hire purchase sector. We just completed successfully, under the leadership of the Attorney General, our 4th round mutual evaluation, which confirmed that our systems are effective in addressing money laundering threats. Very significantly, we recently were accepted, our FIU was recently accepted as a member of the prestigious Egmont Group, an international association of financial intelligence units. We will continue going forward to implement the CFATF's action plan. I should mention a significant milestone recently, which was the passage of the Secure Interest in Movable Property Act, which will improve the ease with which movable property can be pledged as collateral and indeed foreclosed as collateral, reducing the risk or perceived risk of credit by the banking system, and ultimately and most importantly, improving the ease of access to credit by small businesses and by households who will now be able to pledge their movable collateral as credit. We brought to this House an amendment to the Financial Institutions Act that will allow foreign financial institutions to establish representative offices in Guyana. That bill is due for consideration by this at a sitting in the near future. On payment systems, we complete to roll out our national payment systems in collaboration with commercial banks, with our intention being to be able to have full rollout of electronic platforms to execute electronically transactions and to settle electronically payment transactions, thereby reducing our economy's dependence on cash. On public administration and public financial management, revenue management, we've been expanding the GRA's footprint, building facilities and rebuilding facilities in a number of areas: Madhya, Port Kaituma, Barbies, Susdike. A number of services have become available for the first time in West Barbies, like licenses, driver's licenses, trade licenses, etc., application for TIN, etc. We've been modernizing with the deployment of ICT solutions, including the capacity to make online filings and online payments. We will be making a significant investment this year to improve port security and the scanning of cargo with a major investment. We've budgeted a sum of $2.9 billion to purchase state-of-the-art world-class scanners to be deployed at our ports of entry to be able to scan ultimately every item of cargo that is coming into Guyana and every item of cargo that is going out of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, those are just some examples of digital solutions that we've deployed in government, but we have in fact an overarching national strategy to deploy digitalization, including a national ID system. I mentioned a number, which we anticipate those ID cards will start being issued this year, and those ID cards will bring together all of the ID identifiers that have been issued by multiple government agencies. I've already mentioned the electronic medical record system being deployed, the Ministry of Health, the EMIS at the Ministry of Education, and so many other solutions. Importantly, in 2025, we will also be bringing into operation, in fact, we've already gazetted the establishment of the One Guyana Digital School, and we will be rolling out for the first time a fully digital school which will provide a digital platform for grades 10 and 11 students initially, with the capacity, sir, to be able to deploy and deliver content in the comfort of the homes of Guyanese children. And we've actually said, Mr. Speaker, that we have the intention to make this. His Excellency the President, if I might, sir, be permitted to invoke his words in this instance, he has already indicated his intention to deploy this as a regional public good, making it available to our sister CARICOM countries elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, the National Insurance Scheme, the scheme, of course, continues to be extremely important. We have made significant improvements in service delivery. We have cleared, initially, we came into office with a backlog that exceeded 20,000 cases. We have reduced that to 3,000. We have launched and made progress with a comprehensive data cleanup, resolving over 1.1 million outdated records. We recognize, Mr. Speaker, we have also introduced electronic submission of returns. We recognize, Mr. Speaker, that the scheme continues to be beset by challenges. We're working, first of all, Mr. Speaker, on addressing the internal administrative and technological challenges faced by the scheme. But in addition to that, Mr. Speaker, we're currently examining the last actuarial report with a view to identifying actions that will see concrete decisions being made in relation to the long-term viability of the scheme. Mr. Speaker, we've also implemented a number of simple initiatives to improve the ease with which people interact with the NIS, including, for example, their WhatsApp service, which now means that you can stay in the comfort of your home and submit essentially submit your life certificate by WhatsApp rather than have to come in and join a line. And incidentally, if I might take the opportunity that I have this afternoon, sir, to say that you can also get your NIS pensions in the bank or electronically, not necessitating you having to join a line. Procurement, sir, here again, we inherited a weakened system. We've established a bidders register, and a weakened, a dilapidated and dysfunctional system with no competitive public procurement. We've revamped that system. We've established a bidders register. We've upgraded the website. We have online streaming of opening of bids, etc.
Good night, Donald. Good night, Donald.
Mr. Speaker, on data systems, we continue to strengthen the Bureau of Statistics to discharge its very important mandate and the several surveys that it is expected to conduct. We will continue to invest in strengthening data systems across the whole of government, including in our line ministries. Mr. Speaker, I am aware of the heightened interest in the conclusion of the National Population and Housing Census. As you know, fieldwork began in September 2022, concluded in March 2024. The Bureau of Statistics has been compiling and analyzing the data. We in government have also conveyed to them our shared sense of urgency at the conclusion of the census, and I'm hopeful, first of all, once we receive the draft preliminary, or the preliminary report, I should say, once we receive the preliminary report, we will certainly make it available, and we continue to urge and to work with the Stats Bureau to conclude the preliminary report and to have it issued as soon as possible. Foreign relations. Mr. Speaker, we remain committed to good neighborliness, peaceful coexistence, and the unity of Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace and cooperation. We continue to seek a peaceful resolution to the ongoing border dispute with our western neighbor. We continue to engage with the International Court of Justice, and in the most recent engagement with the ICJ, in December 2024, we responded in writing to the arguments made by Venezuela in its counter memorial, with Venezuela now being given a deadline of August 2025 to submit their rejoinder. Oral hearings will then be scheduled after all written pleadings have been submitted, and we will, of course, continue to abide by the rule of international law. Mr. Speaker, we have been aggressively extending our diplomatic relations with tremendous success. We opened an embassy in Qatar in 2023. Mr. Speaker, reflecting Guyana's successes in international relations and our growing prominence in the international arena, the UAE, Qatar, the Dominican Republic, and Belize all established diplomatic relations in Guyana during the 2020 to 2024 period. France will be opening an embassy in 2025, making France the first EU country to have opened a full-fledged diplomatic office in Guyana. France is already receiving and processing applications for Schengen visas and issuing them in Guyana, addressing a long-standing bugbear. And we anticipate, Mr. President, we anticipate, Mr. Speaker, continued success in this regard. Mr. Speaker, within the region, we hosted and shared the 46th regular meeting of the Conference of the Heads of Government of CARICOM. In the first half of 2024, we hosted the second CARICOM Brazil Summit. We hosted the second CARICOM India Summit, just to mention a few. We provided strong leadership regarding developments. In fact, under the leadership of His Excellency the President, we provided strong leadership in CARICOM and with the international community in relation to developments in our sister state of Haiti, with the establishment of the Transitional Presidential Council and a government to chart a path, hopefully, to stability, democratic renewal, and sustainable peace. Very importantly, Mr. Speaker, we continue to occupy our seat as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council for our 2-year term, the first time that we've held that post in 41 years. Mr. Speaker, through that forum, we've been providing strong leadership, global leadership, on matters of interest to the international community. Mr. Speaker, turning to our diaspora, we resuscitated and established a diaspora. We have re-established stakeholder engagements with the diaspora. We have had numerous diaspora conferences. And in 2023, we had several diaspora job fairs. 2023 and 2024, we've had several diaspora job fairs in New York, Trinidad, Suriname, and other places. This saw us having heightened engagement with our diaspora, increased interest in remigrating as members of our diaspora look to avail themselves of the exciting economic opportunities in our country, as a result of which we processed over 1,200 remigrant applications in 4 years. Public safety and security. Here again, Mr. Speaker, we found a security sector in complete disrepair, and disarray. With a preoccupation with the equestrian and canine, apparently the equestrian and canine branches of the police force were the priority, I'm advised. That the strategy, the APNU AFC strategy for the Ghana Police Force was strengthening of the equestrian and canine branches. Mr. Speaker, since coming into office, we have completed several projects geared at upgrading the police force's infrastructure, including the construction and rehabilitation of 23 police stations, 14 buildings of strategic importance, 5 command operating centers, 5 divisional headquarters, 4 IT training complexes, and 5 living quarters. In 2024, we budgeted $5.2 billion to advance infrastructural works. In 2025, we have allocated a sum of $4.7 billion to advance those works. These include continuation of construction of the Brick Dam Police Station, construction and completion of police stations and police outposts at several communities, especially in our hinterland, Imbotero, Bonasika, Legwan, Sansusi, in town and Albert Town, Betafowacting, East of Penitence, Kitty, Mahaika, Maikoni, Beldad, in Warbis, back in the hinterland, Oriala, Kirikou, Paramakatoy, and several others. We have allocated a sum of $597 million to advance works on a modern police training academy campus at Dora, as well as the completion of the headquarters for Regional Division 6 CID and other important buildings. We have $314 million for the rehabilitation of police outposts at Mabura, Timeri, Turkine, Mora Point, and other locations. Mr. Speaker, we have improved force visibility, mobility, and responsive. Mr. Speaker, when we came into government, the Ghana Police Force had almost no functioning vehicle. We have procured a huge new fleet of vehicles, 199 motorcycles, 163 pickups, 104 other vehicles, including of cars, buses, and trucks, 41 ATVs, to equip the police force with mobility capabilities. In 2025, we have budgeted a sum of $2 billion to further expand the force's mobility and their ability to respond. Community policing, we've budgeted a sum of $156 million to advance and expand our community policing program. Importantly, the Safe Country Initiative, which is an initiative which is taking advantage of advanced technology and in an effort to decentralize our crime fighting capabilities and efficiently detect criminal activities. We spent $2.2 billion in 2024, and we will be spending $6.2 billion to further roll out video intelligence, video surveillance systems, improve coverage, and upgrade the technology. This will see a significant expansion in the capabilities of the Safe Country Initiative under the capable stewardship of Minister Robeson Ben. We will continue to train the Ghana Police Force and build their capacity. And so, Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Police Force for 2025 is allocated sums totaling $34.4 billion. The Ghana Fire Service has just had and will continue to have in the current months the largest ever injection in its capability with a significant injection of firefighting equipment. We've completed fire stations at Eccles, Ogle, Leonora, and Wales. We've relocated the Central Fire Station. We've procured 120 diverse vehicles. Just I think last week, We saw the handing over of 40 pickup style firefighting equipments. We saw the handing over 40 pickup style firefighting vehicles, which are like pickup trucks that we will deploy in the communities, the NDCs. We will be training, collaborating with the discipline services to train a volunteer firefighting brigade so that at every single NDC there will be capability to respond to local level firefighting emergencies with style firefighting equipments that have a tank of water, a hose, and a water pump, and also have the capability to draw water from open sources. We saw, for example, the telescopic boom, which His Excellency the President handed over. We're buying another one. We saw the water tenders and the water bowsers, etc. We serviced over 400 fire hydrants. We procure 440 fire hydrants, and we'll be deploying those across the country, particularly in heavily populated areas. The prison service, similarly, we are completely rebuilding the prison service with a major new prison infrastructure built out at Lusignan. We've seen advancement in the works at Lusignan. We've seen advances in the works at Mazaruni. We have seen ramped up training in the prison service, including technical and vocational training to provide opportunities for successful inmate rehabilitation so that our inmates can return to society once they have done their time. We've trained over 4,000 inmates with various disciplines, and we've also trained prison officers, particularly in relation to prison management. Mr. Speaker, for the prison service, we have budgeted an amount of $6.2 billion, and for the security service the security sector as a whole, we have budgeted $108.7 billion in 2025. Far from.
Keep listening, Mike, while you learn.
Mr. Speaker, I now wish to turn to our economic targets for 2025. As we mark 5 years as an oil producer, Mr. Speaker, the pace of economic growth is expected to moderate due to the Liza Destiny achieving peak production in 2024, as well as the timing of the One Guyana FPSO's startup in the second half of 2025. As a result, Mr. Speaker, overall growth in the Guyanese economy is projected at 10.6%. At that rate, Mr. Speaker, we will still be outperforming all of our peers, and according to current global projections, will still be at 10.6%, the third fastest growing economy in the world. Significantly, Mr. Speaker, reflecting the success of our efforts at economic diversification, growth in the non-oil economy is projected at 13.8% for 2025. Agriculture, fishing, and forestry. Mr. Speaker, the agriculture, forestry, and fishing sector is projected to continue its strong performance, with growth projected of 11.4% in 2025, with increased production targeted for all subsectors. The sugar growing subsector is projected to achieve a turnaround and record a growth of 115.4% in 2025. A production target of approximately 101,000 metric tons is set for the year, as Kaisuko continues its mechanization and conversion efforts and promotes value-added production. Rice, building on the strong performance last year, is expected to continue its momentum and grow by a further 12.4% this year, with rice production projected at 804,000 tons. This reflects a ramp-up of acreage cultivated and continued focus on deploying new and more productive varieties and enhanced research and development. The other crop subsector is projected to grow by 11.7%. Here again, this reflects expansions in acreage as we remain focused on executing our local food security agenda. Livestock is projected to grow by 7.5%, with production expected to expand across all subcategories. Fishing is expected to grow by 5.8%, reflecting increased aquaculture production. Forestry is expected to moderate to 1.3%, with a production target of 490,000 cubic meters. Mr. Speaker, in the extractive industries, the mining and quarrying sector is projected to expand by 10%, as modest growth, as I mentioned earlier, is expected in the oil and gas and support services sector because of the timing in relation to the fourth FPSO coming on stream. That notwithstanding, gold, bauxite, and other mining subsectors are expected to record strong performances. In oil, the 3 FPSOs and the 1 Guyana FPSO, the new one, in the Stabroek Block, are projected to achieve production of crude oil of 674,000 barrels of oil per day, with an expected ramp up to an average of 786, with a ramp up to an average of 786,000 barrels of oil per day in the fourth quarter of 2025, which in turn obviously will carry over into 2026. This supports the sector expanding by an estimated 9.5% this year. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the other mining and quarrying sector is anticipated to continue its strong performance, with projected growth of 29.8%. This reflects robust growth in infrastructure investment through the PSIP, combined with intensified activity in private sector construction. Gold and bauxite mining subsectors are expected to expand further, to grow this year by 17.2% and 70.1% respectively. Regarding gold mining, the stronger position is expected to be driven by higher projected declarations from the Aurora gold mine and the small and medium scale miners, alongside an increase in Guyana Gold Board purchases, aggregating to a target of approximately 501,000 ounces. Bauxite is expected to be supported by higher production from both operators in the industry, with output from the Linden mine expected to increase by 167.3%. Total bauxite is therefore projected at just over 4.4 million metric tons. Mr. Speaker, the momentum in the manufacturing sector is anticipated to continue in 2025, with the sector expected to grow by a further 13%. This reflects expansions in all of the subsectors: sugar manufacturing, rice manufacturing, and other manufacturing. Construction is expected to continue to grow by an estimated 24.8%, Services is projected to grow by 8%, with expansions in wholesale and retail trade and repairs, admin and support services, ICT, and transport and storage. Mr. Speaker, our monetary policy will remain focused in 2025 on containing inflationary pressures and maintaining exchange rate stability. These objectives will be pursued within a policy framework that is designed to support robust and sustained growth in private sector credit and in the domestic economy more broadly. With this in mind, the 12-month inflation rate for this year is projected to be largely in line with 2024 at 2.8%. Balance of payments. Mr. Speaker, the overall balance of payments is expected to record a higher surplus of $561.3 million in 2025, largely attributed to improvements in the capital account, with the deficit reducing by an estimated $4.2 billion. The current is anticipated to register a surplus of $2.3 billion, with a merchandise trade balance of $10.8 billion. Within this, non-oil exports are projected to expand by 20.7%, Mr. Speaker, to $2.2 billion on account of anticipated higher earnings from gold, from bauxite, and from rice. At the same time, export earnings from crude oil are expected to decline by 2.1% on account of lower market prices for crude oil expected this year. Targets for non-financial public sector. Mr. Speaker, it is anticipated that the central government's current revenue, net of NRF withdrawal, GRIF and carbon credit inflows, will increase from $437.7 billion to $454.6 billion in 2025. Tax revenues are expected to contribute 95.5% of this sum, amounting to $434.1 billion. Non-tax revenue are expected to reach $20.5 billion in 2025. Mr. Speaker, in addition to a transfer of $512.4 billion from the NRF, the sale of carbon credits is expected to generate an estimated $41.1 billion in revenue. Central government overall spending is projected to increase by 16% in 2025. This is on account of accelerated implementation of critical investment projects and programs, including the new Demerara River crossing, the 6 regional hospitals, and all of the other big projects that I would have mentioned during the sectoral highlights. In this regard, capital expenditure is projected to increase by $91.6 billion, while non-interest current spending will increase this year by $87.2 billion when compared to the 2024 level. Mr. Speaker, the overall deficit after grants of the central government is projected at $317.8 billion, or 5.9% of GDP. Mr. Speaker, for the continued delivery of our transformative infrastructure development agenda and delivery of essential services of greater scope and higher quality, Budget 2025 is 20.6% greater than budget 2024, totaling 1.382 trillion Guyana dollars, the largest budget ever, and is financed by no new taxes.
That's important.
$1.382 trillion. Summary operations of the public enterprises. Mr. Speaker, total receipts of public enterprises are projected to increase to $233.1 billion. Expenditure is projected to grow by $37 billion, with operating costs growing to $211.3 billion this year. Capital expenditure is projected to increase to $6.5 billion. As mentioned earlier, Gaisuco will continue its mechanization projects. At the grinding estates, GPL is expected to upgrade substations, install efficient transformers and transmission equipment and lines, and the secondary power ship is projected to supply 75 megawatts in 2025. The overall surplus of the public enterprises is projected at $7.4 billion, equivalent to 0.3% of GDP. The consolidated operations of the non-financial public sector show a $310.5 billion deficit, or 5.7% of GDP in 2025. Natural Resource Fund. Mr. Speaker, it is anticipated that there will be 246 lifts of profit oil from the Stabroek block in 2025. Within this, government is projected to have 31 lifts of profit oil from the 3 FPSOs producing currently, along with the 1 Guyana FPSO, which will commence production in the second half. But with the average price of Brent crude anticipated to decline to an average of $71.9 per barrel, government's petroleum revenue deposits are projected to be 2.6% lower than in 2024. And so government is projected to earn an estimated $2.2 billion in profit oil and $340.6 million in royalties. Based on the 2024 petroleum deposits and the formula stipulated by law, an estimated $2.5 billion can be withdrawn from the NRF and transferred to the Consolidated Fund in 2025 to support national development priorities in the budget for this year. Mr. Speaker, I now wish to turn to the measures. It would be recalled that one of our first actions when we returned to office was to reverse a range of punitive and draconian taxes. And in their place, we introduced a suite of measures designed to support economic growth and create opportunities for an improved quality of life. Budget 2025 builds on this momentum, continuing our government's commitment to boost economic activity, promote production and productivity, create ample opportunities for income generation, and incentivize effort and hard work. Against this background, I now wish to announce the following measures. Easing the cost of living. Reduction in electricity costs. Mr. Speaker, I have previously indicated that Budget 2025 makes provision for the completion of the much anticipated 300 megawatt combined cycle power plant. Our government remains committed to reducing the cost of electricity for every single consumer in Guyana by 50% once the GTE project is completed. This will not only lower household expenditure, but it will reduce operational costs for businesses, unlock the potential of the manufacturing sector, stimulate investment, and foster a more competitive and productive economy. Abolition of bridge tolls. Mr. Speaker, as part of our government's commitment to reducing the cost of living and improving connectivity for all Guyanese, I wish to reaffirm that upon completion of the new Demerara River Bridge, slated for the second half of this year, bridge tolls will be abolished for all types of vehicles. This policy will not only apply to commuters at the Demerara River Bridge, but also to commuters utilizing the Berbice River Bridge and the Wismar Bridge. The removal of these tolls will result in substantial savings to the benefit of over 50,000 daily commuters, amounting to an estimated $3.5 billion annually. This initiative reflects our government's dedication to making daily transportation more affordable, reducing travel time, while also facilitating greater economic activity and internal regional integration. Containing the cost of fuel. Mr. Speaker, since March 2022, the government has maintained a 0% excise tax on petroleum products at an estimated annual cost of $90 billion. While fuel prices have marginally declined recently, prices remain elevated relative to 2020 levels. We are committed to continuing this measure to shield the Guyanese people from the full impact of high fuel costs. Reduction in freight charges. Mr. Speaker, in August 2021, we took action to address rising shipping costs by adjusting freight charges to pre-pandemic levels for the purpose of calculating import taxes. This measure was initially implemented for a 6-month period and has since been extended. Most recently, it was extended through December 31st, 2024. To alleviate the burden of high shipping costs on consumers at a cost of at what is now an accumulated cost of $22.8 billion, accumulated over the period since the measure was introduced. We recognize that freight prices remain elevated globally, and I wish, sir, to announce that this measure will be extended once again for a further 12-month period from January 1, 2025 to December 31st, 2025 at an estimated annual cost of over $6 billion. Continuation of part-time job program. The part-time job program introduced in 2022 has been instrumental in providing economic support to households across the country. It would be recalled that this program allows participants to earn $40,000 for 10 days of work per month in public offices situated in close proximity to their homes. Since its inception, this initiative has injected over $600 million monthly in additional household income into these communities. Building on this success, this program will continue into 2025 with a further allocation of $11 billion. Other cost of living measures. Mr. Speaker, since assuming office, our government has made it a priority to engage meaningfully with communities and consult with stakeholders across Guyana. These engagements have informed all of our interventions, and in particular, they have helped us to craft interventions aimed at providing relief to some of our most vulnerable, while supporting initiatives to mitigate price increases. In 2022 and 2023, we allocated $5 billion respectively in those 2 years, 22 and 23, $5 billion respectively, to address cost of living concerns. We increased this allocation in 2024 to $7 billion. And in 2025, we have made a provision of $9 billion for targeted interventions based on stakeholder consultations to ease cost of living pressures. Supporting the vulnerable. Increase in old age pensions. Mr. Speaker, it would be recalled, and I know the opposition gets very agitated when we recall some of these factual developments. It would be worthwhile, sir, to recall. They get very agitated when we recall these things. I will tell you, Mr. Speaker. In 2015, the APNU AFC government made, Honorable Attorney General, through the Speaker, you would recall that the APNU AFC made a manifesto promise to double old age pension immediately upon assuming office. Well, it was within what they had a page called their 100-day promises. In their first 100 days, this is what they will do. And they said in their first 100 days, they will double. So within their 100-day promises, one was double immediately old age pensions. Mr. Speaker, if they had kept their word, old age pension in 2015, their first year in government, would have moved from $13,125. Double of that is $26,250. I see Mr. Figueira and Mr. Mahipal trying to disassociate themselves with whatever assumption you might be making there about their age. They were not. They were only about 60 years. They were only about 60 years too young. They were only about 60 years too young. Had they honored their promise in their 100-day promise, in their 100-day list, they would have doubled old age pension from $13,125 to $26,250. Instead, they moved old age pension to $17,000. Now, by any stretch of the imagination, $17,000 is not double of $13,000. I know they have a peculiar arithmetic. Mr. Speaker, if that was not enough, they spent another 5 years in government. And at the time they left government, it was $20,500. They spent 5 years and didn't deliver their 100-day promise. Now, the last time I checked, 100 days was a small fraction of 1 year. Our distinguished colleagues on that side of the house promised the elderly a doubling of their old age pension immediately, and if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, within 100 days. They spent 5 years and did not achieve a doubling. Immediately after. Mr. Speaker, we gave a commitment that we will double old age pensions. With effect, recall that when we came into government, the old age pension was 20,500. The privilege is mine to announce on behalf of this People's Progressive Party civic government that in keeping with the commitment that we gave in our manifesto, with effect from the 1st of January 2025, old age pension will be paid at a rate of 20,500 multiplied by 2 equals $41,000 per month. In other words, we will be paid. In other words, in striking contrast, we will be delivering on our commitment to double old age pension. Mr. Speaker, this will see, this single measure, Mr. Speaker, I hear Mr. Pahipal heckling me and saying, that's only $3,000. For his benefit, 41 minus 36 is 5. But I know arithmetic is not their strong point. I know arithmetic is not their strong point. 41 minus 36 is 5. So all of you heckling over there that I just said it's 36. Mr. Speaker, no, I'm sure that couldn't be Mr. Rajkumar. It came distinctly from Mr. Mahipal's direction. I refuse to believe, Mr. Speaker, that it was Mr. Rajkumar. In other words, Mr. Speaker, this one measure will place an additional $4.5 billion of disposable income in the hands of our 76,000 old age pensions. And the total pension payout in 2025 will amount to over $37 billion. Increase in public assistance. Mr. Speaker, let it not be forgotten that the APNU AFC, they also promised in their 100-day promise that they will immediately double public assistance immediately upon assuming office. But this promise was treated in exactly the same manner as the promise they gave in relation to old age pension. They came in and met public assistance at $5,900 in 2014, and they left it at $9,000. $9,000 is definitely not, and mind you, they got to $9,000 after 5 years of incremental adjustments. So in 5 years, they failed to deliver what they promised in 100 days. Mr. Speaker, we came in and met public assistance at $9,000. We have already raised it to $19,000. And in 2025, Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to announce that we will increase public assistance further to $22,000 per month. This will place in the hands of the recipients of public assistance, this will place in the hands of the recipients an additional $1.4 billion in the hands of 40,000 persons. Mr. Speaker, universal health voucher. In addition to this government's numerous new and ongoing initiatives in the healthcare sector on which I spoke earlier, and in alignment with this agenda, as previously announced by His Excellency the President, in 2025, Mr. Speaker, we will be issuing a $10,000 universal healthcare voucher to every single person to help finance a basic menu of medical tests. This intervention we anticipate, assuming a take-up by 500,000 persons, this intervention we anticipate will cost us an estimated $5 billion. My apologies. Support, Mr. Speaker, support for our youngest citizens. Support for our youngest citizens.
It is from 0 to 10,000.
Mr. Speaker, in order to support the development and well-being, of one of our most precious and valuable population groups, newborn babies, who will constitute the future of Guyana, our government will provide a one-off grant of $100,000 for every newborn baby born in Guyana to a Guyanese mother, starting from 2025. Mr. Speaker, I'm now being heckled by colleagues behind me who are indicating their intention to avail themselves of this measure. Mr. Speaker, in the interest of providing support to our youngest citizens, our newborn babies, we will provide a one-off cash grant of $100,000 for every single newborn baby born in Guyana to a Guyanese mother. We expect that this will cost approximately $1.3 billion annually. National Insurance Scheme. No. Mr. Speaker, as I've said already, the National Insurance Scheme is Guyana's foremost national institution in providing social security benefits for some of our most vulnerable. In order to provide support for a better quality of living for a number of persons who have attained the age of 60 and have not met the 750 minimum contributions and are not entitled to receive old age pensions, our government will be injecting $10 billion into the scheme, which will offer eligible persons with contributions ranging from 500 to 749 contributions, a full and final grant depending on the year that their last contribution was made. Improving business competitiveness. Improving business competitiveness. Depreciation of capital, accelerated depreciation of capital for poultry farmers. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with our vision to promote domestic food production and recognizing the potential for the poultry subsector to contribute more significantly to domestic and ultimately regional demand, we will bring to this National Assembly appropriate amendments to enact provisions for accelerated depreciation for the capital assets such as machinery and equipment used in the production process in order to allow producers to recover these costs more quickly, reducing the financial burden on them, enabling them to recapitalize and to expand and modernize their production facilities. Similarly, Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding that we've already removed VAT on a wide range of heavy-duty equipment, including heavy-duty equipment used in both mining and agriculture, in order to support expansion of the agriculture sector, we propose to remove import VAT on the importation of any other equipment and machinery where VAT has not already been removed, thereby reducing the cost of inputs for food production. This is expected to cost in excess of $1 billion and provide a significant fillip to the agricultural sector. In addition, to further support the agriculture sector, VAT will be removed on automated poultry pens and veterinary supplies. Mr. Speaker, we have always been frank about the challenges that have been faced in the electricity sector. It is precisely for that reason that we initiated the Amila Falls hydropower project and that we were working assiduously to realize that project. It is for that reason, too, that the gas to energy project is at the advanced stage that it is and will arrive very shortly at a point where it will commence production and supply to the national grid. That notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, hearing the representations made by the private sector and other stakeholders in Guyana about the fact that they still have to carry the cost of redundant power, given that the electricity supply coming from the grid is still inadequate and still unreliable. And we, like I said, we have never been a government to shy away from realities or to shy away from challenges. We will remove VAT on electricity generators, which will reduce the cost for businesses who still need to buy generators and backup electricity. Increasing disposable income because we care cash grant. It would be recalled here that since returning to office, this government has restored and incrementally increased the Because We Care cash grant, initially from 10,000 in 2014 to 15,000 in 2021, then 25,000 in 2022, 35,000 in 2023, and most recently, 40,000 in 2024. Mr. Speaker, in keeping with our manifesto promise, I now wish to announce on behalf of this People's Progressive Party civic government a further increase of the Because We Care cash grant to $50,000, benefiting over 205,000 children across public and private schools, recalling that we extend it to the parents of children going to public schools, and placing in the hands of these parents an additional $2 billion to be spent on their children. Mr. Speaker, together with the Because We Care cash grant, well, together, the Because We Care cash grant and the uniform voucher allowance will result in parents of these 205,000 school children each receiving $55,000 per child. And to assist my friends on that side of the house because of the arithmetic, the challenges with arithmetic I know they encounter. Imagine, therefore, that a parent with 2 children will be getting $110,000 under these cash grants. In total, Mr. Speaker, in total, this will result in an estimated $11 billion being transferred to parents and their children. Free university and technical and vocational education. Mr. Speaker, it would be recalled that we've already announced offering free, here again another commitment in our manifesto, writing off of student loans and free education at the University of Guyana. We've therefore already announced a path to free tuition with the write-off of student loans. I'm pleased to report that over 2,700 persons have had their student loans written off at the cost of $1.8 billion. We would have liked this to have been substantially more, and we've been appealing to eligible persons to come in and apply for their write-offs so that they can be relieved of any indebtedness to the student loan, to the government of Guyana through its student loan agency. We will continue to roll out the student loan write-off until we have completed all of the applications that we have received. Additionally, we have announced the abolition of tuition fees at the University of Guyana, as a result of which no current or future student enrolled at the University of Guyana will be required to pay tuition fees. This will benefit, as I said earlier, 11,000 current students, as well as all future students, at an estimated annual cost of $13 billion, which, as I indicated earlier, is allocated to UG this year. Additionally, we've also announced the abolition of tuition fees across every government technical and vocational training institution, as a result of which all of them will enjoy tuition fee-free education, benefiting more than 3,000 persons. National cash grant. Mr. Speaker, we've already implemented a number of measures to improve disposable income of everyday hardworking Guyanese. These include, of course, the COVID-19 cash grant, which we implemented immediately after we came into office. To further increase the disposable income of families, the 100,000 cash grant for every citizen of Guyana aged 18 and older will be further rolled out this year, with an additional $30 billion budgeted in Budget 2025, targeting specifically the coastal regions and other regions that have not yet been served. On completion of this program, Mr. Speaker, a total of $60 billion would have been placed directly in the hands of our adult citizens. A cash transfer program of unprecedented scale and scope. An endeavor on a scale at which nothing else previously has ever been attempted. Registering every single Guyanese adult, processing their registration and cutting their checks. And permit me, sir, to use the opportunity today to reiterate that this work will continue, the registration and distribution, until every single eligible Guyanese person receives their cash grant. adjustment to taxes paid on overtime. Mr. Speaker, recognizing our transition into a more modern reality, increasingly we see companies calling on their staff to work longer and additional hours. Increasingly, we see persons taking on second jobs, which is, of course, very much a norm in any modern society. We all have relatives in North America who do it routinely. And so the concept of working longer and working harder, and in particular working longer hours, is one that we have to embrace, given the recognition that the size of the supply of labor is not growing in Guyana at the pace at which the demand for labor is growing. The reality is we need more people. The reality is we need more people than we have. We simply don't have enough people given the rate at which the economy is growing. And so, Mr. Speaker, I now wish to announce the following two measures. Mr. Speaker, for those persons who earn overtime for work beyond their normal hours, the first 50,000 monthly of their overtime will be non-taxable. This measure ensures that workers are rewarded for production and productivity and for additional effort. In addition, sir, for those persons who have a full-time primary job and they take on a second job from which they have earnings that are taxable, the first 50,000 of their earnings from that second job will be non-taxable monthly. Here again, Mr. Speaker, here again, this measure rewards and incentivizes those who work extra, those who do additional jobs, and those who work longer hours. Rewarding and incentivizing longer and harder work, rewarding and incentivizing harder and greater effort, rewarding and incentivizing more production and productivity. Mr. Speaker, additionally, as previously announced, parents of children, in order to ensure, Mr. Speaker, that parents with children access a greater level of benefit, to further increase the disposable income of parents. As previously announced, we will introduce a provision whereby for every child, one parent will be able to claim for every child an additional $10,000 monthly of non-taxable income, meaning that your income tax threshold goes up by $10,000 for every child that you have, per child, per month. Supporting families again. So you get, and I'm going to come back to summarize these measures. So you get, first of all, if you work, nobody is saying you must work, but if you work overtime and you get paid overtime, the first $50,000 monthly of your overtime will be tax-free. If you work a second job, and you're free to do so or not do so if you wish, But if you work a second job and your earnings from that second job are taxable, your first $50,000 from that second job will be, first $50,000 every month will be tax-free. And thirdly, for every child that you have, you will get an additional $10,000 of tax-free income. Your income tax threshold will go up by $10,000. Only one parent will be able to claim for the child. One parent will be able to claim for the child, but if a person has 1, 2 children, 3 children, Mr. Speaker, if a person has 3 children, they can claim an additional income tax threshold of an additional $30,000 per month. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, income tax. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, I wish to announce the following. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, the income tax threshold was increased from $65,000 to $75,000 monthly. In 2023, it was increased further to $85,000. And in 2024, the income tax threshold was increased to $100,000 per month. I now wish, Mr. Speaker, to announce that with effect year of income 2025, this year, the income tax threshold will be increased to $130,000 monthly. Mr. Speaker, it might escape the notice of our colleagues on that side of the House, but what this constitutes us in one term in office, doubling the income tax threshold from $65,000 a month to $130,000 a month. Mr. Speaker, this will result in an additional $8.5 billion of disposable income for workers and the removal of 22,000 persons from the tax net. 22,000 persons. Mr. Speaker, I wish, Mr. Speaker, to share the following illustration. Mr. Speaker, imagine or contemplate the three measures that were just announced. Contemplate for a moment the three measures that were just announced.
Explain it.
First of all, the threshold was increased by $30,000 per month. That's $360,000 a year. Secondly, you have the potential, if you earn $50,000 by way of overtime, every month you get $50,000 of tax-free income from that overtime earnings. If you're working overtime and you earn that, that's 50 times 12, that's $600,000. If you have a second job and you're earning more than $50,000 and you claim this relief, that's another 50 times 12, 600,000. And so that's 360, 600, 600. Let us say you have 2 children. Imagine a family that has 2 children. You will get $20,000 a month, which will no longer be taxable. That times 12 is $240,000 no longer taxable. So a family that has one income or one income earner who has a full-time job and a part-time job and a second job and is able to claim this relief. Imagine such a scenario. A person who is able to claim, Mr. Speaker, for 2 children, they get a benefit of $240,000 more tax-free income. For the threshold, they get another $360,000 of tax-free income. For the part-time work, they get another $600,000 of tax-free income. And for the second job relief, they get another $600,000 of tax-free income. Together, Mr. Speaker, that is $1.8 million of tax-free income in a year. And if you apply the income tax rate, sir, so this is an additional, for such a family, that's an additional $1.8 million of tax-free income. If you apply the income tax rate, that is a saving of almost $600,000 per annum. That's additional disposable income of almost $600,000 per annum. But to make, Mr. Speaker, but even beyond that, because we wish, Mr. Speaker, we recognize the importance of adequate labor being available and being incentivized to work and work hard. And in the interest of increasing disposable income in the hands of workers, I also wish, Mr. Speaker, to announce a reduction in the personal income tax rate from 28% to 25% for employed and self-employed persons. Mr. Speaker, this measure will increase the disposable income of more than 100,000 taxpayers and is estimated to put $3.6 billion back in the hands of the taxpayers. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to clarify that in one term of office, we have doubled the income tax threshold. We have lowered the rate that is applicable on the first band of income from 28 to 25. Like I said, we have doubled the threshold. We have introduced a relief for every child of $10,000 each. We have introduced a relief for overtime of up to $50,000 each per month. We have introduced a relief for earnings from a second job. And let us not forget that we have also previously introduced a relief for insurance premiums that were paid, medical and life insurance premiums that were paid. We had previously introduced that, and we had previously introduced the mortgage relief so that your interest income that you pay on your mortgage is also deductible from your taxable income for the purposes of a comprehensive range of measures, ensuring that not only we return disposable income to people and increase their disposable income, but we also respond to the changing realities and dynamics of our labor market, where it becomes increasingly important for us to encourage and incentivize additional work and additional effort. Mr. Speaker, the measures that I've just announced, not including the electricity tariff adjustment and not including the removal of the excise tax on fuel, excluding those two, the other measures will see an additional $90 billion being placed in the hands of individuals and businesses in Guyana.
Excellent.
Mr. Speaker, I will now conclude. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 comprises primarily a review of the main developments and prospects in the Guyanese economy, key highlights from the main policies, programs, and projects being implemented by government, and the measures we're proposing this year with the aim of promoting production and productivity, increasing disposable income, and improving household and individual well-being. On each of these key aspects, the conclusions are unmistakable. On the performance of the Guyanese economy, our country's strong growth path continues despite a very challenging external environment. The Guyanese economy remains one of the fastest growing economies in the world. With that strong growth comes more opportunities than ever before for the Guyanese people. But that growth, Mr. Speaker, as we have always said, also brings risks. The people of Guyana have in this People's Progressive Party civic government, a government that will always ensure that our economy remains resilient, that risks are identified and managed, and we will not shy from tough decisions when they are needed. On the policies and programs and projects being implemented by government, it is clear for all to see that we are doing more than has ever been done at any other time in our country's history. We're building more and better roads than ever before. We are building more and better schools and hospitals than ever before. We are training more people than ever before. We are creating more jobs and better jobs than ever before. And all of these result in tangible and visible improvements in the quality of life enjoyed by the Guyanese people. All of these. Our pledge to the Guyanese people is that we will continue to do more and to do it better, all in the interest of their well-being. On the measures that I've announced, it should be clear that Budget 2025 contains much for everyone. Apart from all of the interventions in the social sector and the training and employment opportunities that will be generated by the budget, the measures announced will also help stimulate more growth because they promote production and productivity, and they will also improve disposable income in a very significant and visible and tangible way. Moreover, the measures will incentivize and reward effort by recognizing the value of hard work, and we must respect hard work and not be disparaging and disrespectful of it, and we must reward it, and the measures will also contribute to production and productivity. Mr. Speaker, we, the PPPC, went to the Guyanese people. We, the PPPC, went to the Guyanese people in 2020 with a manifesto that we committed to implement once given the opportunity to do so. And we were given the opportunity. Today, I am proud to join my colleagues on this side of the House to say resoundingly that we have delivered. Indeed, in most cases, we have far exceeded the commitments we gave in our manifesto. Mr. Speaker, like all previous PPPC governments, this budget benefited from inputs from several groups and individuals, including stakeholder groups who made submissions, but also individual citizens who continue to provide invaluable feedback in the thousands of outreaches we do as a government throughout the length and breadth of Guyana. On our government's behalf, I wish to thank all of them for the inputs and suggestions on the things that matter most to them. I also wish to thank my cabinet colleagues and their staff for their valuable inputs. And I wish to thank most wholeheartedly my own team at the Ministry of Finance.
Yes, excellent job. Excellent job, Finance.
I wish to thank most wholeheartedly my own team at the Ministry of Finance, whose work continues to exemplify the very epitome of excellence in service to country. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of this People's Progressive Party civic government, I commend Budget 2025 to this honorable House, and I look forward to its unanimous passage in due course. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Honorable Senior Minister in the Office of the President with responsibility for finance and the public service. And I commend you once again on the presentation of another one of your budgets. Honorable members, I now call on the Honorable Prime Minister to move the adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I ask that we sit-in of the 24th of January 2020 at 10 a.m.
Honorable members, the Assembly stands adjourned to January 24th at 10 a.m.
We ain't backing down. We ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake. Not one rice grain. Not one caress. Not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend like a bow and never break. Our fathers came here and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Make no mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a blade of grass. We love the open country of the Rupununi and the Essequibo, the time when though we may criticize it, this is our own, we love it, and we mean to keep it. We have that right, so we ain't giving up no mountain. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one grass, not a blade of grass. So we ain't giving up no mountains. We ain't giving up no tree. We ain't giving up no river. That belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one chorus, not a blade of grass.